Welcome to week 16, our last week in the semester in Principles of Adult Education. So this week we're going to be talking about culture and context, theory and practice in adult learning, and we're also going to be talking about Erikson's psychosocial development stages 7 and 8. So Brandon Lance and Ken Moore are going to lead us, give us a presentation on culture and context, and then Jackie Carlson and Jory Fleming will give us another presentation on Erikson's stages 7 and 8. So let's first turn briefly to take a look at culture and context in the framework that is provided for us for chapter 12. And chapter 12 is our last chapter in our text. When we're talking about culture, think of the number of cultures that you've probably experienced in your life. Certainly the culture of your original family growing up, the nuclear family, and then and that culture may have been slightly different than if you married. Then you may have had a different culture in which your spouse was raised. And so then to determine your own culture, you had to bring those cultures together. This chapter exposes us to even broader cultures than that and looks at Eastern and Western thought. Culture matters, and understanding culture is important. It's important kind of in the same way when we talked about critical thinking in our last chapter, but let's also think about culture as looking differently in a more open and accepting way to understand and allow ourselves to be enriched by the diversity that exists. So we also have different contexts in which we live, and the contexts matter as well. The contexts change over time, likely, and inform what our learning is about. And when we might want to, looking at Noel's readiness to learn and andragogy, our context might inform when we are ready to learn, mightn't it? So as we explore culture and context, and as we explore the differences between Western and Eastern learning, we will probably learn some things about our own perspectives and even possibly our own biases. So let's be open to also exploring our assumptions here so that we can allow ourselves to set aside our own cultural biases and be open to those new ideas and ways of being of others. So we've got some readings here, and then of course we have our reflection paper that will be coming up and is due May 1st. And we have a knowledge check. This is over chapters 10, 11, and 12. And it will open on Friday. That's the 29th of April at 5 a.m., 5 o'clock in the morning, and then closes on May 1st, which is the Monday following. And that is going to be a closing on 5 p.m. So opens at 5 a.m. on Friday, closes at 5 p.m. on Monday. So bear that in mind. I know last time that some of us actually missed that and asked for new opportunities. We're not going to do that this time. We've had that allowance. This time we need to remember when it's open. I have it posted in our homepage when this opens, that the knowledge check is occurring. So let's be ready for it. So our activity this week, overall thoughts about the principles of adult education. What will you remember? What new concepts have informed you and your views of yourself, learning, and adult education? And you know what? We're going to add to that to also look at what we're learning with regard to our adult education with the stages 7 and 8 of Erikson. So let's look then at the framework for Erikson and set 7 and 8. Stages 7 is generativity versus stagnation. Generativity, what is that? Generativity is giving back. What will you leave as something that is your gift to humanity, to your family, to your community, that goes beyond your own life, that extends and has a life of its own beyond your own life? That's generativity. So stagnation then, which is what the challenge is in stage 8, is feeling that you don't have a contribution, or you choose not to make a contribution. So that often is a challenge that affects people deeply. In stage 8 generally, stage 7 generally, people are in their 50s and 60s in this stage. And generativity is a very important focus at that time. So this is when people are heading into retirement. What are you planning for your retirement? What is your magnum opus, the thing that you are leaving as your life's work? That's what we're talking about with stage 7. Now when we move into stage 8, it's the stage that is beyond that. The stage when people are at it's actually called the oldest of the old. In your 70s, late 70s often, and 80s, and on into centenarian, into your 100th birthday or beyond. Today happens to be my father's 88th birthday, and he's in the hospital as he celebrates his 88th birthday. And he's very weak right now. So as he thinks about his life work, as he thinks about his integrity, he's had a really difficult time of late, and he views it, one of his analogies is it's like 1,000 cuts when you lose things. He can no longer, because of a surgery, he can't lift anymore, and so he can't play golf. He can't do a number of things that were so much a part of him. So ego integrity is how you keep who you are intact, how you keep your self-respect in your later years versus despair and giving up. So this is a stage that is often very difficult to navigate. You probably know people in this stage, and it sometimes is a time when people have regrets, or perhaps they don't. They find that they have wisdom, or they feel that they haven't offered any. This is the challenge of this late life. So think about this. You are likely not there. And so it's kind of you're projecting what you're thinking about it versus what you know for yourself. So you know what you know from others. So these are our topics. Again, we're talking about our reflection paper due May 1st. worth 10 points. Our knowledge check, which we've already talked about, opening April 9th, closing May 1st, April 29th, closing May 1st. And adding to the discussion forum are thoughts about the importance of culture and context to learning and lifelong learning, even in stages 7 and 8. So do Thursday, and then 2 forum posts with responding to others in your group by Sunday. So I want you to know that this has been a really, really fun class for me. You have offered some very, very insightful posts and thoughts to your classmates. Your projects were really good. Your individual projects were wonderful. So I hope that as you think about this class in your reflections on the course, that you offer up what you found of importance to you, what you learned from others in your group and in the class, what we might do next time in a different class that would be more helpful than we had in this class. I always like to improve the class too, and you all have great insights. But most of all, I'm very interested in what your personal learning is, what your takeaway from exploring lifelong learning and the principles of adult education. I hope you have a fabulous summer. You certainly earned it. And I hope you spend just a moment and complete the course evaluations, which is always very important for improving our courses. Thank you so much for a great semester, and have a fabulous summer.